Okay, good morning, guys. So, I figured today was no better day than to start the second segment for my 2018 Year of the Serpent discussion. We have a lot to talk about. I'm really excited. We cover some really interesting things today that are so pertinent to this theme of Year of the Serpent. If you remember in the first segment, we kind of went through 2018 and its spiritual meanings. We talked about the need for communication between people and understanding and love. And that's been a big thing in a lot of things I've been saying because I think it really is ringing true. But today we are going to move on and we are going to talk about why the serpent for 2018, the interpretations of the serpent in different cultures, the alternative theory of the devil, which I love and which really ties things together, and perhaps we'll save it for segment 3, but then we will be getting on to the Garden of Eden. So as you can see, I have my green hair for the snake. Snakes have that green look, so that's like the perfect little thing. And yeah, so let's start up. So first, why again the serpent for 2018? Well, again, duality is a huge part of our lives. If you remember, I did Year of the Zebra. That was all about duality. The zebra literally has black and white. But that was different, and that was sort of, I remember I posted a picture of a zebra with a priest's hood over him. So it was like a religious thing, the religion of duality. Because at that point I was saying we were stuck in it. It was something we weren't even conscious of in a way. It was something we just obeyed and did without thought. Sort of like a religion would have people do certain practices that way. But that was a little waking up moment. Now the serpent actually does represent duality, whereas the zebra to me was, because of the black and white skin, I felt it the perfect representation at that time of duality. But the serpent itself represents good and evil. And in a more, I don't want to say, it's in a way more that we can explore it and come to terms with duality and then move out of duality and onto a better place in the universe. Because remember, duality is this energy state, it's a spiritual state, it's a frequency that we're in. Okay, so that was one reason for the serpent. The other one was because of awakening to things, awakening to good and evil, bringing up the reptilian context. Even if just briefly, all this talk about serpents and their importance in different cultures and in the Bible, the serpent in the Garden of Eden, and it all, at some point I say, well, let's talk about the reptilians. It only makes sense. It's not as if to have these theories based in some sort of science conjecture about alien beings and humanoid beings that look like reptilians is so far off once you think about the way that reptiles are represented heavily in almost every culture. So I wanted to put the spotlight on that a little bit. And you'll see as we continue on why this is Year of the Serpent. 2018 also is infinity, and it represents the serpents of duality. And yeah, so it really just felt like a serpenty year. It was good and bad. The serpent gets a bad rap often. But 2018 is looking to be a good year filled with communication and compassion. So my point in putting the serpent there is that we have to look twice, because the serpent might not be quite what you think. And this reptilian conspiracy might not be quite what you think it is, or how it's delivered to you. Because at the end of the day, we're getting our information from, we're getting our good information from knowledgeable people. But remember this, everyone has an agenda. Everyone has an opinion. And it might not be the exact truth of what's really going on. So look in that good and evil and see what's really there. So now I just want to get into some interesting things. What does the symbol generally represent in this world from different cultures randomly? around, the globe from different times. So I'm going to look that up right on my computer. I'm going to do it right here. Serpent symbology. Okay, so serpents, this is the general. Serpents generally across cultures have symbolized fertility and rebirth. Not something you might think, given the bad rap in Christian United States. Fertility and rebirth. Historically, serpents and snakes represent fertility or a creative life force. As snakes shed their skin, they are symbols of rebirth, transformation, immortality, and healing. The Ouroboros is a symbol of eternity and continual renewal of life. And this is perfect for 2018, because in 2018 we are seeing a rebirth of sorts. We are seeing a transformation. We are heading towards that place of immortality. Remember, the gods struck us down, not to get to the Garden of Eden too quick. They struck us down to the Garden of Eden where we became mortal. But now it's time to heal ourselves and to rebirth and to transform. So that's a beautiful, positive, good idea of serpents that has been seen throughout the ages. But let's ask another question. What does the serpent mean in the Bible? In the Bible, the serpent is a symbol of evil power and chaos from the underworld, as well as a symbol of fertility, life, and healing. In Hebrew, it is associated with divination, including the verb form meaning to practice divination or fortune-telling. So in Christianity, it's getting this bad rap. It's coming from the underworld, yet it still is symbolizing fertility, life, and healing. And that is the magnificence of the snake, in that its essence itself is dual. It couldn't be evil, but it also represents life and healing and rebirth. It can be both, because it has a very complex role. So ultimately, they symbolize continued renewal of life. In Genesis, the snake is introduced as more cunning than any of the creatures of the field of the Lord God had made. He's a creature, but a smart one. In the book of Revelations, Satan is called the ancient serpent. Interesting. Satan is called the ancient serpent, which refers to the snake in Genesis. So he's a creature, he's smart, and he's cunning. There is no difference between a snake and a serpent. Okay, so those are just some examples of what serpents mean in different cultures, in a very general sense. So I found that was all perfect for 2018, and it all fit in. And 2018 is looking to be a good year, but to be a good year, we have to accept that there will be some negative we have to come in contact with and perhaps empathize with. Because that was my whole thing if you watched my Chaos Out of Order. My second clip was very forgiving because, and I don't want to get into a tangent, but the way to fight evil is not by using evil. It is by using good and compassion and understanding. Because what you think is evil probably has more of a story than you imagined. And that leads me to my next idea, my next theory that I have subscribed to from others, which is the alternative theory of the devil. And now that I've researched it a little bit, there happens to be quite a few. Now it seems that if you and me think about it, in America, aware of the Bible and the church's idea of the devil, we know the devil as the ultimate bad guy. There is no one worse. He is the adversary to God. If God is light, the devil is dark. He is supposed to trick humanity, You spend eternity in flames with the devil. And the devil takes on all of these different depictions in pop culture, as in different ways. He may be a seductress woman, so they're making a statement about that, or he may be really what I'm thinking is a sexy man, because a lot of the time sex is linked with evil, unfortunately. Um, so we have this bad idea of the devil, but research has shown that that is not the case. Now, scholars of the Bible, theologians, people who love reading it and interpreting it and seeing what it's really about, people who have read the Bible with a magnifying glass, a lot of them have come to say, wait a second, when you really read the Bible full through, the devil is not painted as this horrible, evil, bad guy that we are meant to believe. Yes, he is rebellious, he perhaps is smart and cunning, but they read this and they say, wait, the devil has been given a bad rap. He's not really a bad guy in the whole theme of things. Now, I should read the Bible. I never thought I'd be interested in it, but I actually think that it has some good merit. But this is what research is saying. Okay, this is what people who do not particularly have a religious affiliation in the sense of faith with the Bible, but more study it as its own science, interpret it, and they see that this is the case. And that makes sense to me. And there's a big theory out there, and it kind of moves along with everything about the Garden of Eden and humanity, where the devil is really, if you read and look at different scriptures and ideas, the devil is the misunderstood guy of the whole thing. He's misunderstood. So before I get into that, let's just start with the basic general idea of the story of the devil, the Christian devil, right? He was God's right-hand man. He was a top angel. He was close with God. Now we know that he betrayed God somehow. He rebelled against God, a better word. And God sent him down to hell. And that's where we have a piece of duality. Now we have good and we have evil. We have someone up in the heavens to represent good, and we have someone down in the hells to represent bad. And so that's a lot of where this idea comes from. Now, it also, you will see the idea of duality in many different religions. This is a very popular spiritual concept. And ultimately, I just want to make the point that all religion, and I know this is a big statement, but I have watched enough videos to be sure of it myself. Look up Jordan Maxwell. He is very knowledgeable about this stuff, loves mysticism and religion. And it comes down to that all religions ultimately are very similar in their ultimate points, but all religions are a worship of the sun, meaning the literal sun that rises in the sky. It goes back to paganism. These current religions goes back to paganism. Egyptian religions, ancient religions were worship of the sun. All religions ultimately, whether their stories are highly symbolic or not, represents the worship of the sun. And in fact, if we look a little bit, we can look at what the word Lucifer means. And Lucifer is translated in Latin as the morning star or the bringer of light. That's literally what Lucifer means. And this makes sense if you think about it, because now we know that Lucifer or Satan, what he did to rebel against God was that he wanted to, or as the theory goes, I subscribe to this, and this falls into the Garden of Eden concept a little. Satan wanted to enlighten humanity. You have to remember that humanity at this point was still in the Garden of Eden, and we were just blissfully ignorant. We were really half human, half animal. And maybe you could say we lived beautiful lives, but we were ignorant to so much that the gods all knew about. And we could live forever, but we really had no growth or evolution in who we were. And the devil came to enlighten us and to tempt us to eat from that tree and to give humanity the full spectrum of joy and love and suffering and pain. And that might seem bad, but that's necessary for emotional growth and ultimately for spiritual growth. And so he did this, and he enlightened the people. He enlightened humans, or had a hand in it at least. And I like to liken this to a modern day person who is into conspiracy theory or is into the occult or black magic, and they like to look it up. They research it or they watch videos on it and they get hooked on it, and then they want to talk about it with their friends and let other people know about it. And in that way, they are sort of like the devil because they have good intention. They want to enlighten people, but they are painted as a villain by the powers that be. You could metaphorically say the gods, our government. They are painted as a villain because they are trying to expose things that the powers that be are just not ready to have exposed. And so the devil was that sort of character. He was a rebellious character. And so he really had an integral part in helping humanity get to where it was. And if you think about it, he almost became a friend of humanity. Because when we sin, it's of the devil. We are doing of the devil's work. Because the devil now represents humanity and hedonism and instinct and desire and all these things we struggle with. Whereas God represents, at least in the Christian aspect, represents, purity and good. And I want to just say quickly, the reason I'm saying all of these Christian things, because it's not quite like me, is because for some reason at the beginning of 2018, I felt that I wanted to have a little return to some Christian themes. The Garden of Eden seemed right, the serpent seemed right. The serpent was not just the reptilian idea, but the serpent in the Bible. And I did this too because I feel that, in America at least, when somebody wakes up, and I mean wakes up in general, to the fact that, let's say, they go to church every Sunday, and then they realize, wait, this is bullshit. This is just some guy talking at a podium. And they realize, oh my God, there's a whole world out there of different people who are valid. And there's science, and there's this. Christianity immediately gets shunned. And that's natural and that's normal. Because we live in a Christian nation. We have Puritan roots. Really, we actually are. We're actually a Masonic experiment, this country. We've only been around 200 years. And just a little tidbit. We were the democracy, our departure from Britain to be on our own. We won that war, but really what happened was they said, okay, they won. Let's allow these people to go off and have their little experiment. And we were run by Freemasons. George Washington was a Freemason. So occult ties and Illuminati ties started this country. But all the while, you had the Puritan aspect to it. So you naturally rebel against that. But what people then miss is they just banish all of it. But there's a lot of Christian mysticisms that we don't know about, but are very interesting. Or just scholars that study the Bible and connect it with really interesting things, like aliens. For example, the idea of angels that came down were really aliens. So you can get a lot of information from the Bible still. So I wanted to go back to it, at least for a little, in the beginning of 2018. So where was I? So the devil was this type of rebellious character. He rebelled against his powers that be. And for that, he was condemned. Now, there's also some research, too, that I happened to come across. And I read through some of it. And I don't quite know exactly why they've depicted this, but there are some scholars who read the Bible who have been led to believe that Satan really is working for God still. He's not become a rebel of God. Although I thought it was obvious he was cast down, they're saying that he still works in God's administration as the bringer of light, because I guess that goes back to Lucifer, and that God is the ultimate light, but that he has Lucifer bring light to others. So now there's this interpretation. So we're starting to see that this devil character has had a bad rap all along, and the church may have its reasons for that. And it might just be confusion, but now we're seeing that this is not the case. Now, many people may say, well, this is blasphemy, this is the New World Order. Well, that is where my interpretations of this information is different than many, because I come from a perspective of acceptance with some of this stuff. Not everything that's new about the way religion is looked at and society is looked at scares me. Although I try to remain skeptical, that's where I might be different than others in the perceptions of this. Because I do see the devil as probably was a misunderstood guy. The all-powerful God wanted to keep us in our ignorant place, and the devil said, eat from that tree of knowledge. And perhaps, now we live these lives of mortals, but ultimately it's a progress, it's an evolution. So anyway, that is the alternative theory of the devil. And as we all know, so that's my point with 2018 too, okay? When I was saying before about having to find empathy and compassion with everybody, that's our new step. Because now we're socially awake for the most part. There always are going to be ignorant, hateful people. But even those people, in a way, are awake because everyone is now showing their colors. And it's divided, but it's socially aware. If you're a white supremacist, that's what you are. You identify as that. If you are proud black, Black Lives Matter Antifa, you are that. If you are transgendered, you are that. Gay, you are that. A feminist strong woman, you are that. Am I leaving anybody out? Probably. Anything. We're so divided up now in these groups. And I know it came from a good place. It's ultimately used in politics to make voting easier because it's identity politics. So, for example, you vote for Hillary Clinton more likely if you are a gay man because you just feel that Hillary Clinton has your best interests at heart, not considering or even really probably researching all of her other ideas and stuff, or at least not deeply. And I know there's a lot of information out there. WikiLeaks was a huge thing during the election. I even remained ignorant to that, because it was almost too much. It was just too much information in a way. But what I think to myself is, well, I remained ignorant to WikiLeaks, and I love this stuff. The rest of the country was seeing all of this crazy stuff. So number one, no wonder Donald Trump won. And number two, no wonder everybody is out of control and in an uproar, or was. I think it's getting better in 2018. But anyway, so my point is, the alternate theory of the devil is there to serve the example that we are at a point where we have to find compassion with every different group. We have to even find that common denominator with our enemy, and I mean that, because we are all humans. And again, I'll say it one more time. Some people, when I say that at some point we're going to have to realize that what connects us is that we're all humans, people look at me. Usually it's liberal people. And they say, because I haven't had that reaction from the guys at work I talk to, and they'd say, oh, it's fluff, it's unrealistic. And, that's a valid point. I get where it comes from, because everything has to be complicated right now, right? Everyone has to be complicated. Everybody has to be up in arms and offended. So it couldn't possibly be that easy to make peace. But ultimately, what I'm saying is that we will have to get to that point if we want to evolve as a world and go to the next level. Because that's what it's coming to. Because we all are humans. That is what connects us. Yeah, you might live across the world. You might be black. I might be white. And it's true. We have had vastly different experiences in some contexts. But ultimately, we are the same. We're human beings. We feel, we suffer, we feel joy. And that's something that we all feel. we all connect with. So it is time to look at every other group, even those you don't like, and try to find understanding with them. And I don't want to get back into this rant. I think I'll make a whole video for it because I think it's so integral right now to save ourselves, because we are at a point with these warring social groups where the only way to bring it all together like it should be is to realize that we have similarities, a lot of them. Um, so I'll get into that another time, but that's about the devil. Looking at your enemy and saying, wait, I don't know everything about you that I thought I did. I have compassion for you too. You struggle too. Just like I hate you, you hate me. We're both the same, because we are. We are. I am you and you are me. And that's what I said about Trump. We can hate Trump all we want, but Trump had to win because Trump is us and we are Trump at this point in America. So now I'm going on a tangent, but that's my example of this whole devil thing. We're not here to hate Trump. We're not here to support him blindly, but we're here to have insight, or try to, or have insight into what makes him tick, or what above him makes him tick. It's time to think and communicate, because 2017 lacked all that. And it made sense. People were opening their eyes. It was scary, but it was pretty brutal. And it was pretty shitty. And it can't go on like that. Okay, so alternate theory of the devil. Love thy enemy is the end result of that one. And we'll get into this more later. This is just, my 2018 overview. So I guess we are on the Garden of Eden already. All right, well, you know what? Let us take a short break. It's been 26 minutes. And we will come back with what my favorite sub-theme of this whole thing is so far, is the Garden of Eden connection. Because I really feel so much a part of this. Okay, thank you for watching.